Wonder if I should go for my old man look today. Wonder if that makes a lot of noise. Am I ready? Who knows? God, I don't know where all this dust and hair comes from. My mic sounds nice, part 1. Yeah, that sucked. And, and they have a, Hello and welcome to another edition of True Audiophiles. My name is Jim Carter. So today, we're going to discuss Discogs. You know, kind of give you my take on what I think about them. Kind of go over my likes and my dislikes about them, and basically give you my overall opinion. So I guess what I'll do for right now is we'll start off right off the bat with just kind of going over the so let's start off with the likes that I have for Discogs. So to start off, the first and foremost, what I really truly use it for primarily, especially right now that I don't really go to used record stores very often right now, is just the ability to catalog my own record collection. I have not cataloged all of it. I've cataloged a lot of it. I still have a long way to go, but I have quite a bit of it in there. And basically every time I listen to a record now, and I've been doing this for probably about 3 or 4 years now, once I listen to a record, I scan it in, or enter it in, if you will, and inventory it, and put the condition in the fields where you can. I really like that ability as well. Basically, one of my other likes about Discogs is just the ease of use that the app has in terms of, you know, if you have a smartphone, which just I think everybody does nowadays, don't they? They have an amazing app. Here it is on my phone here, but you know, the search field is pretty robust. I also really like the fact that on albums that came out from the 80s on, all that have barcodes, that you can just scan the barcode and get it put in there. And obviously there are going to be some other situations that you may have to kind of look up a couple of different variations of it that use the same barcode. But I think it's pretty cool that you can do that. It makes life a lot easier to inventory your records when you have that ability. I also really like the depth of all the different variations that are cataloged in Discogs. And, you know, just to be able to kind of look stuff up, searching it and seeing how many different variations there are, and making sure of which variation you have. You know, they usually have ID notes in terms of the dead wax information and things on that nature. And I really love the ability to really pinpoint exactly what you have. Which actually brings me to my next point of things that I like, and that is the ability to look things up in Discogs when you are going record shopping for used records. When you come across something and it seems like a little more than what you feel you should spend on it, like I've done this a few times, I will take out my phone and do a search on Discogs and see which version, you know, they have, and see what it's kind of going for in Discogs. My general experience has been, I think a lot of record stores, used record stores, use Discogs as a pricing tool. And up until probably about a year and a half ago or so, I had noticed that, generally speaking, if they would be selling it at kind of like the median price range, because they basically have a list of the lowest it's sold for and the highest it's sold for, and then there's a median price. So I have found in most cases, a lot of record stores tended to go with whatever was the median price. That's what they would mark the record at. The only exceptions I had seen about that before is if it's sealed, or if it's got some sort of special circumstance to it. You know, if it's in just immaculate condition, things like that. Sometimes I've seen it go for a little bit more. There are some record stores that tend to go more for the other alternative, which I've actually been seeing more and more of trending, where they'll actually look not only at the median price, but then also kind of look at what the marketplace in Discogs is selling the product for, and kind of gauge their selling price based on what stuff is priced at in there, not necessarily what it's been sold at. So I have seen some record stores actually tend to go closer to pricing the stuff at the highest that Discogs has ever sold the product for too. So I've seen that. But anyways, it's a good barometer to gauge how much you're going to spend for, or how much you should spend for that used record, that specific copy. The other nice thing, if you do it, I personally haven't done this or don't do this, but this could be a like or a dislike for a couple of different reasons, which we could potentially go into, but I may not, just because I don't have an experience with it. But it's selling your records on Discogs. The ability to sell your records there, as opposed to somewhere like eBay or something like that, where you're basically targeting a market that is serious about records, or more serious about records than they tend to be on eBay anyways. But I might be wrong in that, but that's my personal take on it. So I think that's kind of a cool capability. So some of the dislikes I have for Discogs, some duplicate artists and pressings. I've seen this a couple times where maybe the artist is twice in there, and sometimes it gets, and I've seen a couple of cases also where the same pressing is in there at least a couple different times, and maybe with a slight variation on the information. I mean, you have to keep in mind that Discogs is kind of like Wikipedia, where it's curated by the public. It's not something that is entered by one person or a couple of different people that work for Discogs. So this is all public added content. So you're going to get some of that. There's really not much of a way around that, unfortunately, if you're relying on them for that kind of information. So because of that, the duplication, and also just because of the fact that one of the likes I liked was the variation and just the vast depth of information about all the different pressings. The downside to that is, you could have 30, 40 different pressings of the record. So trying to hunt through every one of those to make sure you find the right one that either you have or the one that you're looking at a record store to try to buy can be daunting, especially, like I said, if there's 40, 50 different pressings of that album. And I've seen a lot of cases where there might be, 10 or 15 different pressings in the same year. I mean, a lot of times it's because there's, European pressings, or German, UK, Japanese, other France, Europe is France, I guess, but, different pressings from around the world in that same year. But I've seen several circumstances where, there's a pressing from one pressing plant in the US and another pressing plant in the US. And so there's several different variations of that same record that came out that same year. So I've seen that too. So that's a little bit daunting and a little bit of a challenge when you're trying to find your record and there's 30 or 40 different variations of it. I also don't like something that they've changed recently on the app is it doesn't display the catalog number in anymore, which is, it's a little pet peeve of mine, just because it helps me when I'm doing some things, like when I record my records digitally. I like to put that information in to my app that I'm recording it into, so it helps me distinguish what it is. And the fact that it's not on the app anymore really gets kind of frustrating if you've cataloged it, that is, it doesn't show up. So anyway, that's another little minor issue. I've also noticed that occasionally that the app can get flaky. Like, I'll enter all the information in for the album, like I'm cataloging it, and I go to save it, and it says it saved it, but then you go in and it's not in my library for some reason. And then I go and enter it back in, I save it, and now there's two saves of that same pressing. I've had that happen a couple of times, and it gets kind of frustrating. One of the things I don't do anymore, and one of the things that I don't like about Discogs, is buying from Discogs, just because there are just too many people out there that tend to not be very conservative, to put it nicely, about their grading of the records that they put up. Like, they'll put in near mint, and it's definitely not near mint. There's like a scratch or two on the record itself, and the jacket's a little beat up, although that part isn't as important to me as the record. But there might be a slight warp to the record, and in many cases, and I don't blame them, they'll be a visual grade as well, not a audible grade. So, because a record, as a lot of you probably know, can look great, but maybe it was played with a really poor quality cartridge turntable or a poorly set up one. So there's a lot of issues with distortion and noise because it got a little bit damaged from playback. Or just the pressing itself could be bad. It could be a situation where, visually it looks fine. There's no scuffs or scratches on it, but it just doesn't play as well as it looks. So I've actually stopped buying from Discogs and eBay for that reason, just because I've tended to be disappointed almost every single time I've purchased something from either one of those. And a lot of that is mainly just because I am very picky about my condition of my records, and if they aren't what they say they are, I get really frustrated. Like I was trying to buy stuff that claimed to be near mint off of Discogs and eBay, and they very rarely were. They were, very good, maybe very good plus at best. But that's part of the reason why I would buy near mint, because I would expect them to be maybe very good plus at best. So yeah, buying from Discogs, I'm just not a big fan of, just because sellers are not as accurate as I would like them to be on the condition. And I know I've heard that from a lot of people, especially in the vinyl community on YouTube and other places too. But it's an issue that's pretty bad out there. So something that I like and dislike about Discogs is, for the selling community, or buying, I guess it's technically the buying and selling, but I do like the fact that local mom and pop shops can kind of open up shop on Discogs to give them an extended audience for their product, to help them stay in business and to support themselves. And especially when they're pricing their stuff fair and they're pricing their stuff accurately, and they do a good job with communication and shipping and packaging and all that kind of stuff. I really enjoy that. The downside is one that I've heard from one of my viewers, and I'm sorry, the name escapes me, but I know that it was discussed in the comments section, and that's the fact that some local mom and pop shops have gotten so busy because of their business on Discogs and maybe their website, that they tend to sell out of kind of, I don't want to say rare, but more popular items sometimes even before the local customer can buy them. Or, because in a lot of cases, when there's that popular item, sometimes they can only get in a certain allotment of that. And once that sells out, they don't have any more to get you, obviously. So the local buyer is kind of out of luck. So I would love to see more implementation from local mom and pop shops of a situation where, I want to say Bull Moose is one of them. Bull Moose is a record store or a record store chain that is in like the New Hampshire and Maine area, but primarily. But they basically, at least for Record Store Day, I can't speak for other times of the year, their website and their I think they have stuff on Discogs too, but I don't remember. But anyways, they don't post Record Store Day titles until the Monday after Record Store Day, which is generally on a Saturday. So this gives their local buyers, their local customers, the ability to buy the records first. And I would really like to see other mom and pop shops kind of implement that, give their local customer the first crack at anything that they get, and then make it available to the rest of the audience out there worldwide when the record doesn't sell within the first few days or whatever of being on sale. So anyway, there's the good and the bad of the mom and pop shops being there. So that's kind of my take on the good and bad of Discogs. I'd really love to hear your input. Are there other things that you like or dislike about Discogs? I know that some people tend to, there are some articles that Discogs writes that are on there, but I unfortunately can't. I have to admit I have not read any of those articles, or very many of them, but I do know that some people tend to read those and like them. But I really would like to hear your take, see what you think about Discogs. What do you think about my list? Would you add to the like list, add to the dislike list, add to both? add to the dislike and like list. I want to hear what you have to say, so comment below. If you liked what you see here, please hit that like button. Subscribe if you like my channel. Hit that alert bell to let you know when new stuff comes out. And I really appreciate your time. You have yourself an awesome day and a great rest of the week. Thanks.